You're listening to the Fantasy Bums Podcast, the show where we don't know what we're talking about, but act like we do. This episode is sponsored by Reaper Apparel Company and W Energy Supplements. Use code FANTASYBUMS to get 10% off your next purchase today.
All right, welcome in to episode 8 of the Fantasy Bums Podcast. Today we're talking about the top of our running back rankings. We're going from 11 to 1. If you missed last week's episode, we did 24 to 12. That was episode 7. Go give that one a look. And I think we're ready to get started. No big news broke except for one of Tyler's defensive players. He might have been known to put down a gamble or two, but we don't really know the details, so we won't speculate too much about that. Anything you want to add?
I think that it was a little more than a few. The thing that I saw said that it was like 50 games, including games with the Colts.
That's a touch
I say
more.
good riddance.
That's not even that many bets.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I probably put that many down this month, but,
Yeah, I'll probably put down that many this week, so.
I'm just glad to see him off the team finally. He was horrendous.
Oh, all right. Any more news, anything else you guys want to talk about, football-related, not necessarily fantasy?
No, and this ain't really football related, but I had $100 on the Pirates tonight.
Yeah,
they lost horrendously.
I had the run line tonight.
So I'm kind of killing it on the bets.
Yeah, kind of a bad bet tonight. All right. Well, enough of the daily rants. Let's get into the running backs. Let's get into why you come here. So we're using the Fantasy Pros rankings to go off of our baseline or our consensus picks, rankings, whatever you want to call them. And we're starting at 11, and they have Breece Hall, the New York Jets superstar, second-year running back, coming off of an ACL injury at RB11. Now, I talked about Breece Hall. He was my last running back last episode. I don't want to get too much into him because I don't believe either of you guys talked about him last episode.
He was my last on my episode, too. He was 12 for me.
Yeah, I also had him on my last episode.
Oh, shows who paid attention last episode. Maybe you guys knew that as the viewers, but I did. All right. So I'll start with my 11. I have Ramondre Stevenson. The only thing that scares me is the offense. I don't like the offense. I don't like Mac Jones. People are ripping it up and down the street in Morgantown.
Yeah, I know. The windows are shut. That was still loud as hell.
It was. All right. Well, Ramondre Stevenson is RB11. For me, he's a great running back. All around, he does everything you ask of him, unless you want him to extend the play, and then it turns into a game loser. So if anybody remembers that Raiders game last year, that was a doozy. But he finished RB. I think I had it RB14 PPR last year. He kind of disappeared in the fantasy playoffs, which sucks, obviously. But he helped you get there. I see this is kind of where he's going to go, as that high tier RB2, low tier RB1. He's going to float back and forth. He's going to have his weeks where he shows up, and he's going to have his weeks where he disappears, mainly because of the offense not being there too. Not just him, but the other 10 guys on the team. So Tyler, let's go on to your 11.
My 11, I have Travis Etienne. We had a little discussion last week about the angle of Travis Etienne's feet. So if you want to go check that out, that was last week's episode. The reason why I have him this high is his pass catching ability. I know he wasn't used a lot last year, but I think that he will this year. Doug Peterson knows how to use him. He knows how to get his playmakers open.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was a big fan of him last year. He was, I guess you could call him clutch, would be a good way to describe him. He always kind of seemed to rip off a big run when you needed it to. He was hit and miss for fantasy, though, I will say. He should have a great, technically second year, but it's really his third year in the NFL. Shanholtz?
Yeah, I'm right with Tyler on this one. I have Travis Etienne. The offense is super powered, and like Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne played at Clemson together, so they have the chemistry. Lawrence can check to him out of the backfield. His passing upside is what brought him to this side of the episodes for me. And even with Captain Kirk and Calvin Ridley and Evan Ingram, I still think he's going to get his touches. I'm not too worried about the rookie. So, I mean, there's nothing – he just has the lowest floor of all these guys to me is why he's 11.
The only negative, I guess, is that Doug Peterson did come out and say that they don't want ETN to receive the same amount of snaps that he had last year. I believe they're going to try to implement Tank. Is it Tank Bigsby or Tank Dell? I can't remember.
Tank Bigsby.
Tank Bigsby into the offense as a running back, and he's the bigger back of the two of him and ETN. So there could be a couple goal line steals there, but we'll see this season. All right, coming in, we're finally getting to the top 10. Oof, this one's a heartbreaker for me. I disagree heavily. Actually, I don't disagree heavily. I disagree with the tier break where they have Derrick Henry here at RB10. Man, I think he's in tier 2 100%. He seems immune to time. The older he gets, the better he gets. But the Fantasy Pros have Derrick Henry at RB10. And for me, I have Najee Harris, who I think I'm the highest on out of just out of football respect of the four of us. I love the situation he's in. I love the offense. I like the step that offense can take this year. Everybody coming back again. There really aren't any new pieces except for the couple draft picks. So no big free agent signing at the wide receiver or the running back or anywhere else. The only thing I will say is Najee Harris is a volume monster. He needs the volume to be successful so far in his 2-year career. He's been under that 4 yards per carry that we try to look at for running backs. And he's had over 300 opportunities with his rushing attempts and his targets both of his 2 years. And I mean, if this offense can take the step that I think it will, I think Najee returns to form to his rookie year where he could be a top 5 running back, but I do see him in the top 10 this year. Tyler, who's at the bottom of your top 10?
At my 10, I got Mondre from the New England Patriots. I love this kid. He finished, I think, inside the top 10. I think it was like 7 or something. He finished really high, and I think he's going to do it again because the Patriots are just going to continue to run the ball.
Mm-hmm. They need somebody on offense like that can handle the workload that will be needed to succeed and move the ball down the field. Shanholtz?
Yeah, me and Tyler are kind of on the same wavelength here. I have Ramondre Stevenson. I don't think there's too much competition in the backfield in New England. I know Tom Montgomery got a little bit of hype coming into the offseason, but I don't see that panning out at all. James Robinson, yes, he's finished in that top 10 before, but that was his rookie breakout year, and he hasn't even seen it within the top 20 since. The offense, they brought in Juju. I don't see that impacting Ramondre. He'd definitely still, in my mind, be the target receiver. I mean, he almost had 100 targets last year. Mac Jones loves to dish it down to him, get him out of trouble, and he can do something with the ball once he gets the ball. So I like Ramondre Stevens, but again, for all of these, it's pretty much who has the highest ceiling because they all have RB1 floors. So I'm just determining who has the highest ceiling, and Ramondre just doesn't beat the other guys I have.
I agree. Ramondre set up for a great year. All right, so according to the Fantasy Pros, this is where there's a tier break from 10 to 9, and at 9 they have Nick Chubb, the Cleveland running back. Man, we'll get into him. I'll get into him a little bit later in the episode. I don't know about you guys, so I'll just leave that there for now, and I'll get into my number 9. This is where I have Derrick Henry, the all-father of time. I believe he's 28, 29, something like that, and no human being at the size of his size should be able to run as hard, run as fast, and run as efficient as he does. In his entire career, he has not had a season where he's finished under 4.3 yards per carry. That's insane. He always seems to find the end zone too. And yes, you can say that the Titans, he's the only player on the Titans. Well, you're right. That's the only player I want on the Titans this year, maybe except for Chig. But, I mean, there was a crazy stat last year where he was like 50% of all the points they scored and he was 40% of all the yards accumulated. Like, how do you not want that player on your team? Now, the age is the only concern for me. But, again, he's the only guy there. I don't think the rookie they brought in really scares me too much away from Derrick Henry. I mean, he was the rushing champ the back years, I think two years ago. there's just not a lot this guy can't do in terms of running. He's not a very good receiving back, which is why we saw, oh, what was his name? Was it Hilliard? Was Hilliard the receiving back there last year?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dontrell Hilliard had some relevance there a couple of weeks just because he caught some big passes. But I think Derrick Henry, this will probably be the lowest he finishes, excluding injured years. But there's a chance that he might lose a step because of age. But I don't think he's going to go from RB5 to like RB20. He's going to stay within that top 10, just towards the back half for me.
Yeah, and for me, number 9, I have Najee here. I mean, that Pittsburgh offense has to run through Najee. I don't think that it's going to work any other way. They have to ground and pound because I don't know if Kenny Pickett can take the biggest step up this year. He took a pretty big step last year coming in on his rookie year. But yeah, he's going to get his carries. He's going to get his touches. Depending on how many of those are going to be scoring touches, we don't know.
Yep, fair. I just think these for me, Derrick Henry and Najee Harris both require tons of volume. I actually had in my notes that Derrick Henry's the volume god because he's had over 300 attempts for the past like 20 years, it feels like. Channel 2, you have it, you're 9.
Yeah, Derrick Henry's way up in my list. He might be a little high for most people, so we'll get to that later. But for my 9, I have Tony Pollard. Jerry Jones finally let go of Zeke. I don't know what the big holdup was for that. Everyone knew Tony Pollard could do it. I mean, his yards per carry is insane. Has 5.2, 5.5, 4.3, and 5.2 yards per carry in each of the last 4 seasons. So he has basically over 5 yards per carry. Touchdowns are there. He had 12 total last year. The only thing that scares me with Pollard is all of the receiving they brought in. They brought in Cooks. There's talk as of right now that DeAndre Hopkins is looking that way. Michael Gallup has been a multiple 1,000-yard receiver, and CeeDee Lamb. They brought in a tight end in the draft, and Jake Ferguson, and Pender Shoot is still there. I mean, they have targets all over the board. And then they just got Deuce Vaughn, who has family ties within the organization. So, I mean, I don't know. But I don't think that's going to affect Tony Pollard as much. But just there's too many mouths to feed is the only reason I have him at 9. But he could definitely move way higher than that for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Tony Pollard, I actually traded for him in our main Bill Wright league. Shout out Bill Wright if you're listening or if you're still alive wherever you are. I traded for him as my keeper, and I keep him in the 10th round. I'm super excited for him this year. We're expecting a big jump from him. All right, moving on to RB8. The Fantasy Pros have Ramondre Stevenson. We all recently just talked about him, so we're all pretty well close, have similar outlooks on Ramondre's season. Now, my number 8 might raise a couple eyebrows. Some people think he should be higher. Tyler thinks he should be lower, but I think it's really hard to rank him. I have Bijan Robinson coming into my RB8. Now, the Falcons suck, which is what the reasoning for Tyler's ranking was last episode, excuse me. Falcons suck. Their offense is not good, excluding Bijan and Drake London. Yeah, I know they have Kyle Pitts, but it's Kyle Pitts. Like, he's either going to break out or he's just not going to do anything again. I have him here at 8 because college film, amazing, immaculate. He's the best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley. But, I mean, once we get into the names, once we start to get in these names I have above him, you just play the name game, like Tyler said with the quarterbacks. Would I rather have Bijan Robinson or a Tony Pollard on a better offense? You know, I'd rather take my shot on the guy that's proven that he can be the guy in the NFL on a good offense than taking a shot on a rookie, especially with the capital you're going to have to pay this year for him. And I could be completely wrong. He could finish RB1, which I have heard is in his realms of possibility. So he's a wild card for me. I think his range of outcomes is probably the most vast in my top 10, but I feel like towards the bottom is where he'll finish, which is a great year for a rookie.
Yeah, here's where I'm going to put the king. It's not the king in my book because, I mean, Jonathan Taylor's better. Man, do I dislike Derrick Henry. I can't even think of a good thing to say about him. So I'm just gonna move. You guys can just move along from me.
It's fine. We'll put your head down in shame right there for the Derrick Henry rating.
Yeah, and then mine is Jonathan Taylor for my 8th. And the only reason I have Jonathan Taylor this low on my list is because I'm horrified that Anthony Richardson is going to take all the checkdowns. I'm terrified that they're going to give him the goal line touchdowns because Jalen Hurts' offensive coordinator is moving over to Indy. And you know what they did with the quarterback sneak at the one last year. So I see that happening. So I feel like they're going to take the goal line touches away from him. Anthony Richardson, as soon as he sees pressure, he's going to run because he can. And that offense just wasn't really good last year to begin with. I know Jonathan Taylor's been an RB1 before, but just the idea of Richardson taking all those checkdowns and goal line touches away from him just pushes him down just a few spots to where I would have had him originally. If it was like a Nick Foles or a Matt Ryan or something.
Yeah, once we start talking about all these guys and the top 8, top 6, we're picking from the best of the best. So we obviously have our own opinions about them. But if I left the draft with any of these top 8 guys as my RB1, I'd be fine with it. I mean, we can nitpick, and this is basically an opinion from top 8 on. We pretty much have the same top 8. Everybody does. And that's just personal preference if you prefer that over this guy. So right here is where we're going to take our first ad break. So stick around for the rest of the rankings, and we'll see you in a little bit.
Our first sponsor ever for the Fantasy Buns podcast is W Energy Supplements. W is a 0-calorie, no-sugar energy supplement, perfect for anyone in need of an energy boost without the crash from the caffeine. W has a variety of flavors to choose from, so your perfect flavor is waiting for you. Use code FANTASYBUMS for 10% off your purchase at checkout.
All right, welcome back from that first ad break. Hopefully that encourages you to go buy something from one of our amazing sponsors and use our code FANTASYBUMS for 10% off at purchase. Heading back to the rankings now, we're starting off at RB7, and the Fantasy Pros have Tony Pollard, and I agree with them. That is right where I have Tony Pollard. Again, the channel's kind of talked about him a little bit. No Zeke. There's really no threat of a backup running back. The only thing, and this is just a rumor, the only thing that super scares me about Tony Pollard is I've heard rumors that the Cowboys are in the market for Leonard Fournette, which would be a ceiling hit for Pollard, not so much a floor hit. But I still think Pollard can finish top 10. I mean, he did it last year with Zeke taking the majority of the rushing touchdowns away. But I don't really see too much of the receiving work leaving from Pollard. Yes, they did bring in all these receivers, and they have a healthy one coming back. But I think he gets all the ground volume. He gets the majority of the passing volume. I mean, he's just set up for a great year. Everything's falling where it should for Pollard. Now all he has to do is play football like he did last year, and he'll exceed expectations for everybody.
Yeah, and I have last year's rushing champ, Josh Jacobs, here at number 7. Any Jimmy Garoppolo-led offense is just going to inherently run the ball more. He's a game manager. So I can see him getting a similar amount of carries that he did last year.
And then for my 7, I think I'm the first one to mention this guy, Nick Chubb. I don't think you guys have mentioned him yet, right?
Nope.
I haven't.
Not yet.
Yeah, so Nick Chubb sits at my 7 spot strictly due to the lack of receiving. I think he can outrun the guys I've mentioned previously, but when it comes to the guys above him, I don't think his rushing is going to stand alone against them. Deshaun Watson's there. We have some Deshaun Watson haters in this podcast. Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore. They just got a rookie that's name is leaving my brain right now. Then Njoku's coming back. So the receiving, what's that? Oh, Cedric Tillman. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, they definitely have a nice receiving core. Deshaun Watson is definitely going to pass the ball more than Brissett ever did. So they're going to take runs away from Chubb. And if you have that many passes, they're going to take away a few of the touchdowns too, because he's very good at getting touchdowns. So I don't think the ceiling is higher, but he's always within the top 10, 12 running backs. So.
Sure. All right, that rounds off our number 7 and on to number 6. This is where the Fantasy Pros have the rushing champ, Josh Jacobs, at RB6. For my RB6, I actually have Nick Chubb, and I'm just going to piggyback right off of what Shanholt said. There's no Kareem Hunt this year, and there's no threat of a backup running back as of right now. So Nick Chubb should get almost every single carry on offense, which he wasn't previously because, Tyler, you had him in fantasy last year. How many times did Kareem Hunt come in inside the 5 and take a touchdown or take a carry or something away from him?
I feel like it was every other play. Like Nick Chubb would come in, he would get him down to the red zone, and then they just take him out, and they'd run 4 straight runs with Kareem Hunt and get like a yard.
Nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, go nowhere
Nick Chubb,
and then take a field goal.
The first, however long Deshaun Watson was out, Nick Chubb was, if he was not RB1, he was RB2 in that span. He was on pace for like 2,000. He was on pace for 1,800 and I think 18 or 19 touchdowns, which would have blown Josh Jacobs' rushing title out the water by 150 so yards. I mean, Nick Chubb, I saw a tweet about him today, and this person hated whenever they heard people say Nick Chubb was the most purest runner in the NFL. It's just true. Like, he is hands down the best running back in football as far as running the ball with vision, speed, power. And dude, he's a dog. He gets it done every year, and I don't see anything different this year. Tyler, on to your 6.
Here I have Nick Chubb. I'm just going to say it, the elephant in the room. Deshaun Watson's going to ruin him. The Browns are going to ruin him. Get out of Cleveland now.
Short and sweet. I have not Nick Chubb. I have Josh Jacobs. I'm the one that doesn't have Nick Chubb here. So I agree with the fantasy pros. This is just starting to come down to how many mouths there's to feed. Devontae Adams is going to take up most of that. And then Tyler kind of hit it too with Garoppolo. There's not going to be a lot of passing. So I think the checkdowns and stuff are going to kind of fade because he's not really that much of a checkdown back that I remember, or a checkdown quarterback. And, I mean, it's just hard to place people who's just right where you're in the top 6 now. So people are good. Like, you're not picking from bums. So I just have Josh Jacobs here. There's not much to say.
Yeah, everybody in this top 6 is elite of the elite, and you'd be happy walking away with any of them as your RB1, in my opinion. All right, so now we're heading into the top 5, and this is where the fantasy pros have Jonathan Taylor, Tyler's running back. For my RB5, I'm a little low on him. I have Saquon Barkley here at number 5. Now, I believe he finished as the RB4, I think, last year. I'm not too sure on that. It was somewhere in that range. He's a receiving back. He gets a lot of work. Oddly enough, he didn't get any receiving touchdowns last year, but he's an effective runner. And again, the same as Nick Chubb and Tony Pollard, there's no threat of a backup. I think Matt Breida is still the backup running back for Saquon Barkley. So there's no threat of losing carries or losing meaningful touches in the game. But I think the reason I have him this low is because I don't have too much faith in Danny Dimes. He's an average quarterback in my opinion. He'll make the plays that you need to make, but he's not going to make anything spectacular as far as the arm. Now he can run a little bit, which again takes away from Barkley. But Barkley's going to have his design passes, his screens. Again, like Shanholt said, once we get to this part, it's hard to differentiate 6 through 1. But Saquon's here at my 5.
Breaking my top 5, I have Tony Pollard. What can't Tony Pollard do? He can run, he can catch. I saw that play. Oh, I forget who it was against, but he ran in like a zigzag through the hole.
Oh, that was against the Bears. Yeah.
Yeah, against the Bears. Yeah. And he just has insane vision. He's a freak. And I personally don't think the Cowboys should go after Leonard Fournette. I think Tony Pollard can do it all.
No, yeah, I don't think they should either. Trust me, I'm invested into him in fantasy. I just saw rumors and reports from Dallas that there were talks of Leonard Fournette, so I don't want it to happen as much as the next guy.
For my 5th, I have the rookie Bijan Robinson here, so I'm one behind the fantasy pros, and I just think this is just a dream made in heaven. Arthur Smith is basically a fantasy manager. All he does is run the ball. He's going to get 20 touches a game. Yes, Algier was a 1,000-yard rusher last year, but that should just incentivize you to think that Bijan's going to be 1,000. Even if Algier gets 5-10 touches a game, they're going to run it 30-40 times anyway, so it doesn't matter. There's not really a asserted like stud in the receiving core. Yes, Kyle Pitts. Yes, Drake London. None of them really scare me compared to Bijan. They went after him with the number 8 pick. Like, they're going to use him. He can catch the ball. There's a lot of rumors that he's being a slot receiver when he's not in the backfield. So that just raises his ceiling. I mean, this guy, besides Saquon Barkley, I think this is like the best rookie to be coming out. And Saquon finished RB1 his rookie season. So, I mean, I could definitely see Bijan going RB1 as well, just because he's in a dream scenario in Atlanta. And they're going to run the ball, win, lose. It doesn't matter. Arthur Smith just wants to ground and pound.
Yeah, and to back the Algier statement, for all you guys out there that think Algier's still going to take carries, Algier was a 1,000-yard rusher, and then they still went out and drafted Bijan Robinson with the 8th overall pick. So
yeah, you just don't do that if you're not going to use him.
Exactly. Like we've said with all the way from back to the draft, we've been talking about draft capital and how it speaks in the NFL. All right, so as Shannon said, this is where the fantasy pros have Bijan Robinson at RB4. For me, this is where I have Josh Jacobs. Rushing champ, he had over 400 opportunities with receptions and carries. In my opinion, this offense hasn't changed. Even though they did switch quarterbacks, this offense hasn't changed. It's still going to go through Jacobs, and it's still going to go through Devontae. He's set up for another great year. Now, do I think he's going to be the rushing champ again? No, but he's still set up for another crazy year. I think he proved a lot of people wrong. A lot of people were worried about him last year because he played in the the Hall of Fame game in the preseason. Everybody was complaining about that, and then the Raiders didn't pick up the 5th-year option. Well, he was one of the best RBs in fantasy last year, and I think he's going to stay up there inside the top 5.
This is where I'm placing Jonathan Taylor, number 4. I feel like he's in the same boat as Miles Sanders was last year. No one knows how they're going to use him. New scheme coming in with a mobile quarterback. Miles Sanders did fine. And I think Jonathan Taylor, who I believe is more talent than Miles Sanders, will be fine in a Shane Steichen offense.
Let me correct you a little bit. Miles Sanders exceeded expectations last year. He was drafted as I think he was close to an RB, like a low end RB2, and he finished RB 15 or 14. So he exceeded his draft capital, or his draft expectation, ADP, whatever you want to call it. Shanholtz, your number 4.
How much would you hate if I have Derrick Henry at the 4 right here?
I love it. I'm here for it.
Well, that's who I have. I have Derrick Henry. I don't understand why he's so low on everyone's boards. They didn't add any pieces to Tennessee offense. Yeah, they added Will Levis, but at worst, he's going to be a handoff guy. Like, they run the offense through Derrick Henry. He gets 30 touches a game. I'm not scared of the rookie they brought in. Chig is a what-if breakout player. And then they don't have any receivers. Treylon Burks would be a wide receiver 2 on 90% of NFL teams. So I'm not scared of any other person on his team. And until I see some type of change, I'm just going to keep Derrick Henry in the top 5 because that's what he finishes. And then I have his last couple of performances. He finished RB4 last year. And then in 2021, he only played half the games and finished RB21. Then RB3, RB5. Like, he just finishes within the top 5 every year if he plays the full season. And that's the only season he hasn't played more than 15 games. It was 21 when he got hurt. So, I mean, the health's there. Yes, he's 29. But Adrian Peterson was 31 or 32 when he finished RB1. So it has happened in the past. And this is the guy that's going to do it, if anyone's going to do it, just because of his pure volume, basically. Vrabel's going to run the offense through him, and that's it. That's that.
Yeah. Yeah, you want focal points of the offense when we're talking about fantasy football. All right, so we're going to take a break for our second ad of the episode. Hope you guys enjoy.
So for our second sponsor, we are happy to have Reaper Apparel Company as our second affiliate. Reaper Apparel Company is a mental health advocate clothing line with top-of-the-line material and sleek designs. If you want to support a clothing line with a good cause behind it, this is the one for you. You can use our code FANTASYBUMS for 10% off of your purchase at checkout.
All right, welcome back from that ad. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you go visit the website, app, whatever you want to use, and use code FANTASYBUMS for 10% off. Finally, we're getting to the top three, the nitty gritty, the guys that are going at the top to mid of the first round. These are guys that arguably all these guys have RB1 potential, but in my eyes, these guys have the best chance to finish at the RB1 spot. So the Fantasy Pros have Saquon Barkley here at number three. Uh, this is probably going to be the only difference in my list, I think, from the top three for your guys. This is where I have Jonathan Taylor. I as much as I don't want to as much as I don't want to buy into the hype of the Anthony Richardson rushing game. I think Jonathan Taylor's going to return to his form 2 years ago. He's going to go back. They're going to go back to what suits him the best. Because at the end of the day, Jonathan Taylor is the best player on that offense. The only difference between the Eagles and the Colts with Shane Steichen there was Jalen Hurts was the best player on the offense. Now it's the running back and Jonathan Taylor. So I still believe in Taylor, and I still believe, even though he has a mobile quarterback, that he's going to get plenty of rushes, and he's still going to have designed passing plays. Maybe not as many dump offs as he did catch, but dude, he's what? Is he 23, Tyler? 23, 24?
He's young. Yeah, I think I know he's younger
He's
than
24, I think.
24 seems old, honestly, to him. Like, I honestly think he's 23, but Jonathan Taylor, I'm excited for his year. I'm excited for his year with a mobile quarterback who's just going to help him. Really, now we have two threats in the backfield instead of just one, so I can't just focus on Jonathan Taylor.
I'm pretty bar for bar with the Fantasy Pros on these next three. I have Saquon here at three. The only reason I have him over Jonathan Taylor is he is more of a receiving upside than Jonathan Taylor. And I mean, it's Saquon. When he's fully healthy, like he's up there fighting with Christian McCaffrey for RB1.
I also have Saquon Barkley here at my three. To kind of like just counter everything I've been saying about mouths to feed, they brought in a few good pieces. But the difference between the other teams and the Giants is they didn't bring a superstar talent in. The biggest name that they brought in was Darren Waller. And yes, he is a premium tight end, but he's not going to win you games. Like the tight end spot's just not going to do it besides Travis Kelce as far as winning your games. So they're going to have to find a certified, player to run their offense through. And to me, that's Saquon Barkley. They added good pieces, so there is other places to look at. But again, like I said, they're not going to demand Saquon for touches or anything. And Danny Dimes does like to chuck the ball to the side for Saquon. I mean, Saquon did get a decent amount of catches last year, and he's found his way in the end zone a lot more than he has the last couple of years as well, I think, besides his injuries and stuff, and he's finally back. So I definitely like Saquon in the top three for me.
Yeah, I agree. Saquon, again, a stud, should be set up for another monster years, according to fantasy. At number two, the Fantasy Pros have Austin Eckler. I have Christian McCaffrey at number two, and that is solely because of Elijah Mitchell. When Elijah Mitchell was in, Christian McCaffrey's fantasy points dropped 3 points per game, something like that. So his ceiling definitely takes a hit whenever Elijah Mitchell was healthy and on the field. And whenever he was, we saw Shanahan basically giving them a split because, I mean, it makes sense. If I have the best, most versatile running back in the league, I wouldn't want to give him 95% of the carries. I wouldn't even want to give him 75%. So it makes sense from an NFL standpoint, but I do believe the Elijah Mitchell health does take a hit on CMC's ceiling. He's still going to have a rock solid floor. I mean, I had him last year on my fantasy championship run, and it was awesome. He showed up every week. Even whenever he got traded, I was thinking about sitting him because he had 2 days, to learn the playbook, and he scored 2 touchdowns. Like, he just finds a way to be good every week for fantasy. So, Tyler, I know you said that your list kind of follows with him, so go ahead with your 2.
Yeah, it's Austin Eckler. I think that he's going to have a Josh Jacobs type revenge tour with the Chargers. And I could see him being running back 1, but Christian McCaffrey is just he's just everything.
Shan Holtz.
Yeah, I also have CMC at my 2, so I'm falling right behind Nick. And yes, Elijah Mitchell was one of the reasons, but my main one was kind of, other than Saquon, there's just too many mouths to feed. You don't know who the quarterback's going to be. If it's Trey Lance, which training camp seems like that's the QB1 as of right now because Brock Purdy's not healthy. He likes to run. So you could definitely get some touches away from him. You got Debo, you got Ayuk, you got Kittle. You do have Mitchell, like Nick suggested. I mean, you got so many mouths to feed on that offense. I just think between Eckler and McCaffrey, I'd rather have Eckler. So that's the only reason. It's the only person that beats him.
All right. Yeah, that's fair. So all of our RB1s, the Fantasy Pros have CMC as well as Tyler. And Shane Holtz and I both, I'm assuming, have Austin Eckler.
Yes, Austin Eckler's my one.
Yeah. So for me, Austin Eckler, the better Justin Herbert plays, the better Austin Eckler is going to be. He has incentives on his contract, which, again, these guys do this for a living. So any extra money that they can earn is definitely well received. So I feel like he's set up for another year. I mean, he had 100 receptions last year. Not targets, receptions. Now, granted, I lost an argument. I lost a debate because he's not the most efficient running back. He's just everybody puts him on this pedestal because of fantasy. Well, my disagreement with that is he demands these targets. So what if it's a dump off? You're throwing the ball to Austin Eckler. Like, dude's a dynamic ball mover. He catches the ball. He runs with the ball. He just does so much and soaks up so much of that offense. And that offense should be high-powered this year. I mean, they brought in Quentin Johnston in the draft. Still have Keenan Allen. Still have Mike Williams. Obviously, Justin Herbert, who had a down year last year, who should step it up this year and be back to where he should be. I mean, Austin Eckler, there's no reason he can't finish RB1.
Yeah, so as said before, I have Christian McCaffrey here at number 1. Christian McCaffrey can do virtually everything. He can run, he can catch, he can even throw the ball, so you can get some passing points from him too. Yeah, there's a lot of mouths to feed. There's a lot of people that's going to get the ball. But Christian McCaffrey is part of those mouths, and anytime he touches the ball, he can just take it to the house.
Yep, he's the best running back in the league, in my opinion.
And then for me, I have Eckler. Nick pretty much hit most of my points, so I'm just going to kind of skim through it real quick. Incentives, definitely want to hit those. Last year of his contract, they extended it, so he has to show out for other teams. PPR lunatic, has about 100 targets every season. Nose for the end zone. He always is within the top 3 to 5 running backs for touchdowns. And a super-powered offense in the Los Angeles Chargers. And I think that's it. And he's RB1 almost every other year. So
yes, I completely agree. So that is going to wrap it up for our RB rankings. If you have any questions, if you disagree with us, let us know. If you agree with us, let us know. All of our social medias are posted up above us if you're watching this, but if you're listening, our Instagram is fantasy.bums. Our TikTok is fantasy_bums_. Our Twitter is bums_ff, and our YouTube is fantasy bums. Now, I want to take a little sidebar real quick and mention that, especially on YouTube, that we are more than just a podcast. Shan Holtz is doing his own series. It's called No Face, No Case, correct?
Yeah, and I take players' stats, yep. And I just don't give you the names, and then we compare them, and whoever you like more at the end, I tell you who it is. It's a nice little way to check the stats instead of just saying, oh, this is so-and-so, so he's way better. Sometimes it's not the case, especially for fantasy, because stats are everything. So I just like to do that to help you guys out and myself for the upcoming season.
Yep, and Tyler has some things in the work. I don't really want to spoil anything, so we'll talk more about those whenever they come to light, come to fruition. Anything you want to add about your stuff, T?
Yeah, there's a lot of things in the work. I'm trying to get my own little series on YouTube, so just be on the lookout for that.
Yep, and I don't know if anybody listening to this is a sports bettor. If you do, I'm assuming you know that there's no football to bet on. So to switch sports up, Lucas and I are doing daily bets on our YouTube. I'll post them on Twitter, and then I'll kind of talk a little bit about it now. I know I said I wouldn't, but we are working with this app. It's called Sharps. It's basically a sports betting community where you can post your bets, tail other people's bets, fade other people's bets. It's like Twitter. It's like a social media platform, but only for sports betting. Use code FANT429, capital FANT 429, or you can use our link, and that's posted in all of our social media bios. So go find it there. But again, if you want to bet, come over, give us a listen. Right now, I believe tonight I went 2-1 because the Pirates suck tonight. Shanholtz found that out too, and Tyler is a Pirates fan, so we all kind of heard a little bit tonight from the Pirates. But thank you for listening, and again, on YouTube, we're more than just a podcast, so give us a look. If you are interested in sports in general, this is your place to be. Do you two have anything else to say?
No, the only thing with Sharps is, I mean, you can see how much I lose. It's very transparent. You see the losses with the wins. So if you want to watch me just empty my bank account and hop over there, and I mean, just that's pretty much all I can say for that.
Tyler, anything?
No, I'm good. Just like, share, and follow.
Awesome. Yep. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. It's free. It literally costs you nothing other than the half second it does for you to click on the button. Leave a comment down below if you're feeling spicy. If you want to tell us that we're wrong or stupid or we're right. We take all kind of publicity right now.
Yeah, we can take it.
Yeah, trust me, we've had more heated arguments between the four of us, with Lucas, the four of us, than you guys can say to us. So you won't hurt our feelings. On the podcast, keep listening, keep tuning in. We're going to try to have every episode up by Monday. So, look for that at the top of the week every single week. Keep coming back, and we hope to see you again. Thanks for listening.